Preaching on Good Shepherd Sunday is a bit like playing Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor, often referred to as the theme from Phantom of the Opera. Everyone knows it, and everyone's heard all they can stand of it. Sheep are stupid. Sheep are really not that stupid, but just look at the world from a sheep's perspective. There were sheep on the farm where my father and his brothers grew up, and the boys used to sprinkle them with lilac toilet water before shearing them in an attempt to mask that unmistakable sheep smell. Sheep prefer still water, easier to get your tongue around without having to get your entire face wet. Sheep prefer fresh grass, and if they don't get it, begin to either consume things they ought to, or get restless for new pasture and wander off. Sheep and shepherds are, as they should be, front and center in today's service because it is our patronal feast day. Patronal, one of those pesky politically incorrect terms. Patronal derived from the Latin word for father. In Western culture, it is not uncommon for children to take their father's last name. Hence, I was Nancy Shearer. Back to sheep. St. John churches celebrate their feast day on December 27th. St. Barnabas on June 11. St. Mark, April 25, and so on. You can find all of that, as so many other things, in our Book of Common Prayer. Today is our feast day, and we hear about sheep. Inspired by the 23rd Psalm, I'd like to dwell on our souls and their care. There's much talk these days, from both sides of the aisle, about restoring the soul of this nation. Some look to the good old days when America was founded by a gaggle of presumably straight, white, 30, 40, or 50-something-year-old men, owners of property, which included but was not limited to land and slaves, married with heirs, some living in ostentatiously sized houses, some in simpler frame houses with a generous amount of acreage, good Christians, responsible arms bearers, secure in their superiority. Life was simple. There were no gray areas. There was one rule of law which applied to free men and one for pretty much everyone else. Others looked to various times in our history when the have-nots were ushered to front row seats. Liberation of slaves, the vote for women, the vote for people of color, education reform, health access, food, equal housing legislation, equal opportunity employment. All of this makes life so much more complicated, though. Too many balls in the air. Every color group, gender group, faith, age, disability group, animal rights, screaming the injustices that have been dumped upon them. What does restore the soul of America mean to the have-nots? Restore means give or get back what used to be. What if you've never had what was owed to you, according to America's Declaration of Independence, our Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and all the other legislative attempts at leveling the playing field? What is being restored? There are actually 3 different versions of the 23rd Psalm in our prayer book and 3 different verbs paired with soul. Revives my soul, restoreth my soul, and converts my soul. Revive suggests giving new life to something. Restore putting back something that was gone for a while. But convert brings to mind making something new out of what is already there. In 1 Peter, Jesus guards our souls. And in John's description of Jesus as the shepherd, Jesus calls us by name, leads us, brings us together, goes ahead of us to ward off danger. So many of these expressions touch my heart, and I feel safe, kind of tucked in. I'm restored, healed, strengthened again, revived, brought back to life. But convert does more. It nudges me ahead to look for something beyond myself and not just for me. If you have been deprived of safety, comfort, kindness, a home, adequate food, clothing, education, to be honest with you, it's difficult for me to make a list like this because I'm speaking as a straight, white, privileged woman with a lifetime partner, 2 married sons, all of us in pretty good health, a home, a job. But my good fortune depends on someone else's deprivation. And I wake up in the morning sometimes pretty angry about that. Why can't everyone have what they need? Young, old, of color, gay, straight, underprivileged, physically or mentally challenged. And why do I even have to use these words to describe differences? Why can't we live together? Why can't life be fair for everyone? Isn't it true that we are all equal in the sight of God? I remember reading the Tower of Babel story as a kid in Sunday school. My recollection of it is that everyone wanted to be together in a sort of gated community of condos, where all the houses looked the same. We spoke the same language. We planted the same things in our little plots of garden, and we worshiped the same gods. But God came along, destroyed the sameness, and scattered us all around the world to set up our homes in different places with different languages and different cultures. God converted us from sameness to become diverse, and I believe much more interesting. I'm certain that the sort of diversity God wishes for us is not diversity of opportunity, but for every one of us to be able to reach our full potential, to be the whole person God created us to be. In order for that to happen, God calls us to be good shepherds, to care, to lead out of darkness, to provide food and water, to respect our differences by calling one another by name. Truly a beloved community, not unlike that which we hear about in Acts this morning. All were together and had all things in common. They would sell their possessions and goods and distribute the proceeds to all as any had need. Day by day, as they spent much time together, they broke bread and ate their food with glad and generous hearts. We need to pray that God will convert our souls, that God will convert the soul of this and every country, to convert our souls and hearts and minds, so that we strive towards the time and place where everyone, all of God's creatures, will be led to green pastures and still waters. It's called partnering with God to bring the kingdom to the here and now, not just hoping for it sometime later. May God convert our souls, that we all, each of us, will follow where God leads.